Hi everyone, and welcome back to another ghost story by Charles Dickens. And this one is called The Haunted House. It's a bit longer than The Signalman, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed reading it. Here we go, part one. Under none of the accredited ghostly circumstances, and environed by none of the conventional ghostly surroundings, did I first make acquaintance with the house which is the subject of this piece. I saw it in the daylight, with the sun upon it, and there was no wind, no rain, no lightning, no thunder, no awful or unwonted circumstance of any kind to heighten its effect. More than that, I had come to it direct from a railway station. It was not more than a mile distant from the railway station, and as I stood outside the house looking back upon the way I'd come, I could see the goods train running smoothly along the embankment in the valley. I would not say that everything was utterly commonplace, because I doubt if anything can be, except to utterly commonplace people, that is, and there my vanity steps in. But I will take it on myself to say that anybody might see the house as I saw it any fine autumn morning. The manner of my lighting was on it was this. I was travelling toward London out of the north, intending to stop by the way to look at the house. My health required a temporary residence in the country, and a friend of mine who knew that and who had happened to drive past the house had written to me to suggest it as a likely place. I got into the train at midnight and fallen asleep, and had woke up and had sat looking out of a window at the brilliant northern lights in the sky, and had fallen asleep again, and had woke up to find that the night had gone, with the usual discontented conviction on me that I hadn't been to sleep at all. It was a cold, dead morning, the sun not being up yet, and when I had outwatched the paling light of the fires of the iron country and the curtain of heavy smoke that hung at once between me and the stars and between me and the day, I turned to my fellow traveller and said, "I beg your pardon, sir, but do you observe anything particular in me?" For really he appeared to be taking down either my travelling cap or my hair with a minuteness that was a liberty. The goggle-eyed gentleman withdrew his eyes from me as if the back of the carriage were 100 miles off, and said, with a lofty look of comparison and compassion for my insignificance, "In you, sir? B." "B, sir," said I, growing warm. "I have nothing to do with you, sir," returned the gentleman. "Pray, let me listen." "Oh." He communicated this vowel after a pause, and noted it down. "You will excuse me," said the gentleman contemptuously, "if I am too much in advance of common humanity to trouble myself at all about it. I have passed the night, as indeed I pass the whole of my time now, in spiritual intercourse." "Oh," said I, something snappishly. "The conference of the night began," continued the gentleman, turning several leaves of his notebook, "with the message, 'Evil communications corrupt good manners.'" "Sound," said I, "but absolutely new." "New from the spirits," returned the gentleman. I could only repeat my rather snappish "oh," and ask if I might be favoured with the last communication. "A bird in the hand," said the gentleman, reading his last entry with great solemnity, "is worth 2 in the bosh." "Truly, I am of the same opinion," said I, "but shouldn't it be bush?" "It came to me as bosh," returned the gentleman. The gentleman then informed me that the spirit of Socrates had delivered this special revelation in the course of the night. "My friend, I hope you are pretty well. There are 2 in this railway carriage. How do you do? There are 17,479 spirits here, but you cannot see them. Pythagoras is here. He is not at liberty to mention it, but hopes you like travelling. Galileo likewise had dropped in, and this scientific intelligence, 'I'm glad to see you, amico, come sta? Water will freeze when it is cold enough. Addio.' In the course of the night also the following phenomena had occurred. Bishop Butler had insisted on spelling his name Bubbler, for which offence against orthography and good manners he had been dismissed as out of temper. John Milton, suspected of wilful mystification, had repudiated the authorship of Paradise Lost and had introduced as point authors of that poem two unknown gentlemen, respectively named Grangers and Skagington. And Prince Arthur, nephew of King John of England, had described himself as tolerably comfortable in the Seventh Circle, where he was learning to paint on velvet under the direction of Mrs. Trimmer and Mary, Queen of Scots. If this should meet the eye of the gentleman who favoured me with these disclosures, I trust he will excuse my confessing that the sight of the rising sun and the contemplation of the magnificent order of the vast universe made me impatient of them. In a word, I was so impatient of them that I was mightily glad to get out at the next station and to exchange these clouds and vapours for the free air of heaven. By that time it was a beautiful morning, as I walked away among such leaves as had already fallen from the golden brown and russet trees, and as I looked around me on the wonders of creation and thought of the steady, unchanging and harmonious laws by which they are sustained, the gentleman's spiritual intercourse seemed to me as poor a piece of journey work as ever the world saw. In which heathen state of mind I came within view of the house and stopped to examine it attentively. It was a solitary house, standing in a sadly neglected garden, a pretty even square of some 2 acres. It was a house of about the time of George II, as stiff, as cold, as formal, and as in bad a taste as could possibly be desired by the most loyal admirer of the whole quartet of Georges. It was uninhabited, but had, within a year or two, been cheaply repaired to render it habitable. I say cheaply because the work had been done in a surface manner, and was already decaying at the paint and plaster, though the colours were fresh. A lopsided board drooped over the garden wall, announcing that it was to let on very reasonable terms, well furnished. It was much too closely and heavily shadowed by trees, and in particular there were 6 tall poplars before the front windows, which were extremely melancholy, and the site of which had been extremely ill chosen. It was easy to see that it was an avoided house, a house that was shunned by the village, to which my eye was guided by a church spire some half a mile off, a house that nobody would take, and the natural inference was that it had the reputation of being a haunted house. No period within the 24 hours of day and night is so solemn to me as is the early morning, and in the summer-time I often rise very early and repair to my room to do a day's work before breakfast, and I am always, on those occasions, deeply impressed by the stillness and solitude around me. Besides that, there is something awful in the being surrounded by familiar faces asleep, in the knowledge that those who are dearest to us and to whom we are dearest are profoundly unconscious of us, in an impassive state, anticipative of that mysterious condition to which we are all tending. The stopped life, the broken threads of yesterday, the deserted seat, the closed book, the unfinished and abandoned occupation, all are images of death. The tranquillity of the hour is the tranquillity of death. Colour and the chill have the same association. Even a certain air that familiar household objects take upon them when they first emerge from the shadows of the night into the morning of being newer, and as they used to be long ago, has its counterpart in the subsidence of the worn face of maturity or age in death into the old youthful look. Moreover, I once saw the apparition of my father at this hour. He was alive and well, and nothing ever came of it, but I saw him in the daylight, sitting with his back toward me, on a seat that stood beside my bed. His head was resting on his hand, and whether he was slumbering or grieving, I could not discern. Amazed to see him there, I sat up, moved my position, and leaned out of bed, and watched him. As he did not move, I spoke to him more than once. As he did not move then, I became alarmed and laid my hand upon his shoulder, as I thought, and there was no such thing. For these reasons, and for others less easily and briefly statable, I find the early morning to be the most ghostly time. Any house would be more or less haunted to me in the early morning, and a haunted house could scarcely address me to the greater advantage than them. And we'll leave it there till tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed that first part, and more of the haunted house tomorrow. Until next time, stay safe, be good, most of all be kind, won't you? See you soon. God bless. Bye.